it's true that we're going to talk about in this episode how to not live paycheck to paycheck, but we're not going to do it the way you've probably heard before, where it's just like live on rice and beans, sell your car, drive a beater, live in a horrible situation for the next 5 years, and then maybe you can save $1,000 and get out of it. We're not doing that. We're going to go back to me when I was probably 17, 18, 19, right before I got married. I was not good with my finances. I was in a really bad state. I was living not only paycheck to paycheck, but overdraft fee to overdraft fee. And we're going to talk about that. And it's basically going to be a conversation of Joey's living paycheck to paycheck and I'm seeking help how not to.
Yeah. So I'm going to coach you through this.
All right.
And there's power in questions.
Yes.
All right. And there's power in the number of 5. So we've got 5 questions for you that I think is going to pull you out of paycheck to paycheck.
And I'm coming back into current Joey from past Joey and saying, you answer these 5 questions for yourself. I'm going to answer them for myself, but you're going to have to answer them for yourself. And by the time you get to the 5th question answered for yourself, and you need to answer all 5, don't skip to the end and just see what the summary is. This is for you to get out of this, and we'll try to keep it as concise as possible, but answer these questions for yourself. If you need to pause the video, write them down, whatever, answer them for yourself, and let's continue.
All right, here we go, young Joey. Number 1. What's the problem? Why not? Why not live paycheck to paycheck? Why do you want to live any different?
I'm constantly stressed. I'm always looking at, can I afford the medium or the large drink today? I'm like literally like considering, do I get a medium drink or do I get a large drink? And the difference is $2. You know, I'm constantly in this. I'm remembering back to that time, like going to Taco Bell and wondering, like, can I win the free? There used to be this game where you could tap a quarter and get a free taco, and I'm like, can I win the free taco and actually eat enough calories today to be full? You know, it's just it's a stressful situation to live paycheck to paycheck. Always wondering. It takes my options away. I don't have any options. My options are whatever my bank account tells me they can be. And then when I'm out of money, I'm waiting for my next paycheck, and then I spend it all, and I'm in this constant cycle.
Okay. Good.
I don't like it.
All right. Good answer. Good answer. Lot to think about there. Second question is this. You start moving out of paycheck to paycheck and making more. What are you going to do with the extra money that you're making now that you're not living paycheck to paycheck?
So if I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck, what would I do?
What would you do?
I don't know. I don't actually know the answer.
Well, I want you to think about it, because would you buy a larger drink? Would you buy a new shirt? Would you put it in the bank? Would you invest it?
I don't know. And I think a lot of people don't know.
Because I've never
been there.
You've never been there.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to write down the answer to that question and really think about it. Because I think a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck because they don't know the answer as to why they don't want to be. But I did actually later. So younger me wouldn't have known, but later I'm like, I want to start a business. I want to be financially free. I want to be able to invest in equipment. I want to have a house. So a lot of people do know, like, I'd like to drive a nicer car. I'd like to have a house. I'd like to have a better situation. But oftentimes it's not clear. So I snapped out of young Joey and I'm back into current Joey, but like, it's not always clear. What do you want to do with not having to live paycheck to paycheck with the extra? And because people don't know what they want to do, they never get there.
And as a coach, where I would take this, not in this podcast, but where I'd take it in a private coaching session, is I would drill down into your values. What do you value? Do you value just another supersized drink? And so that now you're back at paycheck to paycheck because you just increased your supersize. Or do you actually want to do something different? We would go into values.
Yeah, we would talk about what do I actually want to do with that money, right? And I think your next question asks that.
It leans us that way. How would your life be different if you weren't living paycheck to paycheck?
Well, answering that question with what you just said, if I earn more and then spend more, my life would be no different because I'd still be living paycheck to paycheck. So if I had some excess money though, my life would look a whole lot different. This is young Joey. If I had some excess money, my life would look a whole lot different because I wouldn't feel like a slave to my job. I would feel like I actually had some options. Like maybe one day I'll get out of this job at JCPenney, right? Maybe one day I'll get out of that job at Menards, Lowe's, Home Depot, McDonald's, Taco Bell, Starbucks. Maybe one day I'll get out of those type of job options and I can start a business, educate myself in something else, maybe go to college. I don't know, but my life wouldn't look optionless.
Ooh, wow, that's huge. That's huge. So what you've just said, and I'm sure many people feel this way, is if I had more money, I would have more options.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, for me, snapping back into current Joey, it's not about living on rice and beans and hating my life, because that sounds like less options. I get the concept of the sacrifice a little bit now so that you can, live the life you want to live later. I get the concept of that, but the way it's presented is like, you're a failure. Why did you buy that car? It was the most stupid thing you ever did. And it's like, no, just don't look at it so negative on yourself, because now you're just going to bash yourself and you're going to now want to spend your paycheck trying to comfort the wound you just gave yourself. No, we have an episode about regret. Think about the things you did that you regretted and look into those things and say, why do I regret that? Well, because it made me feel a certain way and I didn't like the outcome. It wasn't a desirable outcome. Use that fuel and also use the fuel of where you want to be. Combine those two things. Look at where you want to be and look at where you've been but didn't want to be. Combine those two things into a really, really, really strong why. And you may actually find yourself enjoying getting the medium drink instead of the large because you're like, ooh, by not getting the large and getting the medium, I'm giving myself a future that I actually want to have.
Yeah.
So I got a little preachy there, but I'm speaking to young Joey.
Yeah,
Joey, don't do that.
Yeah, you could feel it. You could feel it. That's good. So number 4, this is a simple question, but it actually takes some introspection. What's in your way? What's in the way? What's your blockade? What's the hindrance that's causing you to continue to live paycheck to paycheck?
I think the big hindrance for me was comforting myself because I didn't have options. So when I finally got paid on Friday, that was my freedom day. And then I spent all my money on Friday and then I'm stuck for 2 weeks until the next Friday. And it's like my freedom day. It's like, it's the one day I have a positive amount in my bank account. So I can go to the mall, I can go get Taco Bell, I can go hang out, and then I drain it all. And I think the hindrance for me was I didn't have a plan to get out of it. So I was just letting myself be comforted by the problem itself, which was causing me to live paycheck to paycheck.
Yes, very common. So even though you didn't really care, you didn't like the situation you were in, and at times it was probably even painful, because you didn't have a plan, you just lived paycheck to paycheck and took care of that pain through spending that money.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was the hindrance. The hindrance was the mindset that I may never get out of this, so I might as well enjoy what I have.
Yep. Yeah, it's like, well, if I'm going to be stuck here, I might as well enjoy what little I have, Yeah, I mean, that was the hindrance. You have to answer that for you, but that was my hindrance. And I think I've heard that from other people. That's a big hindrance for people, is that I'm comforting myself because I don't like my situation that I'm causing,
Yeah, and I think, and this is just a coaching tip for those that watch, the hardest part about breaking out of any cycle that we don't want to be in, and that's why we ask, if you don't mind being in the paycheck to paycheck, that's fine. But if you actually identify the fact that I don't want to be paycheck to paycheck, that's a cycle. You're in a cycle.
Exactly.
And whatever that cycle is, whether it's a cycle of bad health, bad relationships, The way that you break out of that cycle is you take a first step.
Yep. Just one.
Yeah, one step. And so my last question, what's one thing you could do right now, little Joey, younger Joey, to move you out of living paycheck to paycheck? And maybe you can even recall what
the one thing I did
you did do
was I immediately from my paychecks got cash out from the bank and gave it to my parents and asked them to hide it because I was not in a good habit of saving money. So I said, just take this, hide it, don't give it to me. Don't let me have it back, which is a form of accountability. It's someone keeping me accountable. I didn't invent the thing, but at that time I'm like, well, I clearly can't be accountable for this money, but if I give it to someone, and then I remember, it was actually in that time I was saving to buy a ring, and that was the most money I'd ever been able to save in my life by doing that. So I kept giving my parents money to hide away, and I'm like, hey, how much do I have in there? And they're like, you actually have $2,000. I'm like, I've never had $2,000 in my life. My account was still paycheck to paycheck the way I was seeing it, but my parents, the money I'd been giving them off the top, I was still in my old habits of spending everything I had access to, but what I did was I removed access. And the result of having that money saved up and then having the option to buy a ring and propose was actually super huge. I got married at a young age at 21, but having all that, having that money, it was very, very, very beneficial. It was a great hit for me. It was a great awakening moment to say, hey, I just figured out a way to save. And my wife is really, really good at saving. So I just give her all the money and she makes sure, our accounts are growing and growing. But the problem was I needed somebody to help me.
Sure.
I needed accountability.
But by taking one step, giving your parents some money.
One step. And it wasn't a ton of money. It was like $100 maybe a month or something.
And then you didn't worry about it.
Right. I didn't think about it.
You didn't even know you had it.
Nope. I forgot it.
Then you came back and realized you had it and you were able to buy a ring. But with that ring, you also took on a full-time financial consultant.
Yeah. True.
Your wife.
My wife. Yeah.
So the benefit of that one move of not living paycheck to paycheck actually started to springboard you into other areas. So this one thing can turn it around.
Yep. And the easier the move, the higher the chance of success. So if your move is trying to save half your paycheck, that's a real hard move. I just said I could probably part way with $100 a month. So I'm going to give that to my parents. And I don't remember the exact amount, but like say you make $2,000 a month and $100 a month, you could put that away, right? That's an easy move. Maybe you could even see yourself putting away $200, but taking it off the top right on Friday, when I got paid, when I was in my most vulnerable, hyped state to spend it all, I put that aside and then I spent what I had left. And I still drained it, but I still drained what I had left. But because of that one action, I got into a better cycle.
And one of our coaching, one of the things we do in coaching is we talk about fun and repeatable habits.
Yep.
I don't know if it was fun for you to put that $100 away, but it was repeatable.
It was easy.
And it was easy.
It was easy. Yeah.
So it worked.
Yep. So with all that said, you have to answer these questions for yourself and then ask yourself the final question. What is the one thing I can do right now to break this cycle? It's not necessarily saying you're going to break it in a day or a week, maybe not even a year, but what's one small thing I can do? Maybe it's I save $100 here. Now I feel good about saving 105, 110, and it just slowly starts adding up. And then, because if you're in the mindset of not wanting to live paycheck to paycheck, your mind will start to think of, if I buy the large versus the small, how will that actually impact my goal of not wanting to live paycheck to paycheck? And these questions also make you go one step further than that and say, it's not just the goal of not wanting to live paycheck to paycheck, it's the why behind the goal. And that is a question only you can answer for yourself. But we know these things, when applied to your circumstances, will work every time. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of 5 Ideas, and we will see you very soon in the next episode.